everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie, and I'm here to talk about the late, great Neil Sedaka. Neil Sedaka was always present in our lives as we were growing up. Then by the mid-70s, when his career had a big boost, a revival, it was truly incredible. And while I already knew this, it still shocks me that he is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sure, you know, you sit there and you think of the ballads and the pop stuff he put out in the 70s, but I can guarantee you that there's not an artist today that you can listen to that wasn't somehow influenced by Neil Sedaka. It could be his inventive arrangements, the melodies. I think through most of the 60s, if not all the 60s, you are looking at Neil Sedaka and his co-writer Howard Greenfield writing a bunch of great songs. In the 70s, Phil Cody took over as his main songwriter. Now, of course, Neil wrote the music and either Howard or Phil Cody wrote the lyrics. But there's a song out there that I would guess that a lot of you don't realize that Neil Sedaka co-wrote the English lyrics for, and that was ABBA's Ring Ring. Going back to the late 50s and early 60s, he had his hits, Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, Oh Carol, Happy Birthday, Sweet 16, classic stuff. But he was also writing for Connie Francis. And then through the years, he also wrote for the Monkees. He wrote The Girl I Left Behind Me, and he wrote When Love Comes Knocking at Your Door. Davy Jones put out a great single in 70 or 71 called Rainy Jane, and that was co-written by Neil Sedaka. Of course, Captain and Tennille did two covers, Love Will Keep Us Together and Lonely Night, Angel Face. Another one of his songs that he wrote was Let the Good Times In, which even the Partridge Family did a cover of that. But it's just a great classic Sunshine Pop track. And he also wrote Working on a Groovy Thing that several artists had big hits with, including The Fifth Dimension. He wrote a song that was covered by Tony Christie. The song was called Is This the Way to Amarillo? And that song was a hit, I think, in 71 or something in the UK. But then it became a massive hit in 2005 when it was associated with, I think, Comic Relief. And it became like a top 5 or top 10 single. One of his best known ballads is a song called Solitaire. And I think the Carpenters did that. Elvis did it. And Solitaire is a beautiful song. But let's take a look at the CDs that I own by Neil Sedaka. So let's start with the 50s. Now, for several years, he was releasing singles, and they could be found on a bunch of different compilations. This is the one that I have here, Breaking Up Is Hard to Do. The singles 1957 to 1962. And that's chock full of great tunes. But his first album that came out in the 50s was called either Neil Sedaka or Rockin' with Sedaka, depends on which country you're in, and that's the one right here. And then his next album was Circulate, and that's the one that's right here, and that came out in 1961. And that's mostly cover versions, like standards and stuff. Both of those albums can also be found in this 4-CD set, along with his next album, Little Devil, and then a collection. And each of these have bonus tracks, as you can see there. Now, this box has that Little Devil album, and that came out in 61, and that's the first one right here. And then the second CD here is actually covers the same period, basically 58 to early 60s, maybe even mid-60s, but it didn't come out until 1978. So even though these albums here were released about, 17 years apart, they do cover essentially 58 to 65, I think. And you can get those both on one CD through Wounded Bird. You know, he was still releasing hit singles, but by the time Beatlemania and the British Invasion came along, it just made most of these artists irrelevant, no matter how talented they were. So Neil Sedaka had to struggle to try to get an album deal, and he was still writing songs for the other artists, and he was still putting out singles and such. But this collection here, this is kind of a gray area collection, and it sounds incredible, it's wonderful, but it's a bunch of material that was never released, except for his 1969 album, Working on a Groovy Thing. That was, I believe, released only in Australia. I'm trying to get there. Yeah, it was only released in Australia. A lot of the stuff was demos and unreleased material, and it's just jam-packed full of some of his best stuff is on this. So Working on a Groovy Thing, the album, was his next album, and that's included on this collection. A real change came along in 1971 when he put out the album Emergence, which is the top one there. And that was really showcasing just what a great pop songwriter he was, and still what a great vocalist. His next album was Solitaire, and that came out in 72, and that's the bottom one there. And of course, that's got some great hits. But the big thing about this album, he had moved to the UK and he began working with a band in the studio. And of course, he was writing the songs, but this band, who didn't have a name yet, it was basically Eric Stewart, Graham Gouldman, Lal Cream, and Kevin Godley. And along with Neil Sedaka, they created the Solitaire album. But of course, those four musicians would go on to become 10cc. And then his next album, The Tra-La Days Are Over, that actually was also recorded with 10cc. And that's another great pop album. More maturity, more depth, great songs, great vocals. Now, before I get to this album, I got to go to this album, which has never been officially released on CD. And it's the album Laughter in the Rain. And of course, we all know that this has some very familiar songs, and I'll tell you in just a couple minutes why those songs are so familiar. In fact, I'm going to tell you now, because I'm still not ready to talk about this album. I'm going to tell you now that a good chunk of this album and then some of the previous three albums, they were combined on an American-only compilation called Sedaka's Back. This is the Varese Sarabande reissue, and they added some bonus tracks from the same period. A lot of people didn't realize that this was a compilation, and a great one at that. Now, that album was reissued last year, 2025. This is a remastered version, and it does have some bonus tracks. I should have compared them so I can tell you, but I think they're slightly different. That album came out in 74. In 75, that's when he released the album Overnight Success, another great pop album. You know, his days of working with 10cc are over, but songwriting, arranging, everything is fantastic. This is the album that has Lonely Night, the original version, you know, his version that Captain Antonio eventually recorded. And this has Bad Blood. It has the ballad version of Breaking Up Is Hard to Do. It has the song Hungry Years, which leads me into the fact that this album was sort of rejigged a little bit for the U.S., retitled, and came out as Hungry Years. And this is yet another Varese Sarabande release. Now, the one thing I failed to mention is the two albums, Sedaka's Back and Hungry Years, were released on Elton John's Rocket Records label. And I believe so was the album Steppin' Out. And this came out in 1976. And this doesn't really have big hits here in the U.S., but it's a great album. Really, really, really fun. But he left Rocket Records and I think signed with Polydor in the UK. I don't know what label it was here in the U.S. It could have been Polygram, Polydor, or something. And he released 4 albums, which have been combined onto a 2-CD set through Neil Sedaka's label. And the albums that he put out are A Song from 1977, All You Need Is the Music from 1978, In the Pocket from 1980, and Neil Sedaka Now from 1981. And as I said, it's 4 albums included in this great set here. And his next album was from 1986, and that is called The Good Times. Now, it took him almost 10 years before he returned with another album. And the thing that a lot of people don't know about Neil Sedaka is the fact that he was a great classical pianist. Well, he put out an album called Classically Sedaka. And this is an album where it's pop songs, but he'll go into classical bits and pieces, and it's really a nice, wonderful sounding, a very mature mixture of classic Neil Sedaka and classical music. And that's why they call it Classically Sedaka. Next up is the album Tales of Love and Other Passions, and that came out in 1999. Now, the next album that I have is called The Show Goes On, featuring You, which is a beautiful ballad, one of his best in his entire career. And the same year, I believe he released the Brighton Beach Memoirs, which is him performing songs in Yiddish, but I do not own that one. 2005, he released a unique Christmas album. Disc 1 is original Christmas music written by Mr. Sedaka. And then Disc 2 is just a bunch of classic Christmas songs. After that, he put out an album called Waking Up Is Hard to Do, which is a children's album. Then the next album that I have in my collection is The Music of My Life. And this came out in 2010. 2012, he released the album The Real Neil. And this is him at a piano. And he's performed a couple new songs, including the beautiful Beginning to Breathe Again. And he also records some of his older tracks. But it's just Neil at the piano, and it is stunningly beautiful. It's wonderful. And to follow that up in similar fashion, It is an album called I Do It for Applause, and it's mostly him at the piano. It was his last album. There's been many compilations that have come out over the years. Truly gifted artist, wonderful. I remember my mom loving the song Hungry Years. So, of course, when I hear the song Hungry Years, I'm thinking of mom and dad, family, things like that. And then when I hear Laughter in the Rain, I'm just thinking just the joy of being young and hearing that just blaring from the radio and hearing all the stuff that was on the radio and then discovering stuff on my own, be it on a vinyl LP or a CD. This is music that has touched me for many, many years. I'm going to bring this chatter to a close because it's time to listen to the man himself. I created a medley featuring snippets from a lot of his best-known songs, a lot of obscure songs, and I know that a lot of people are going to say, but it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that, it doesn't, this song is missing. I can't believe you didn't put that on. Yes, I had more songs on this medley, but there were copyright issues, so I had to remove a bunch of songs and mix things around. At least we have the music, and some people may be diving into his catalog and discovering or rediscovering him. And I hope it starts with this medley, and I will see you on the other side.
Do down, do down down, comma down, do down down, comma down, do down down. Breaking up is hard to do. You turned into the prettiest girl I've ever seen. Happy birthday, sweet 16. Oh, Carol, I am but a fool. Darling, I love you, though you treat me cruel. Yeah, my heart's in a whirl. I love my little calendar girl every day of the year. Hey, you're out to break my heart, but just before you do, hey, you little devil, I'm gonna make an angel out of you. And I'm going out the same way I came in. The game is over now, I couldn't win. My heart is all I'll have to pack, and this time, girl, I won't be back. And years from now, I'll turn around and see the girl I left behind me. Let the good times in. The leaves of life are falling down around you, girl. And rainy day bells ring in the chapel, telling the people there's gonna be sunshine. Hey, rainy Jane, you gotta stop your crying sometime. Come on, rainy Jane, it's up to you to make your own sweet sunshine. We're working on a groovy thing, baby. Working on a groovy thing. Working on a groovy thing, baby. Let's not rush it. We'll take it slow. That's when the music takes me closer to a brighter day. I can feel my soul exploding. There's a good feeling helping me to find my way, my way. And solitaire's the only game in town. And every road that takes him down. While life goes on around him everywhere, he's playing solitaire. Young and beautiful, but someday your looks will be gone. When the others turn you off, who'll be turning you on? I will. Why what's on the other side of me, the side of me that reaches out to you. Why must I hide these feelings I have? It was a time when strangers were welcome here. Music would play, they tell me the days were sweet and clear. It was a sweeter tune. Ooh, I hear laughter in the rain, walking hand in hand with the one I love. Ooh, how I love the rainy days and the happy way I feel inside. You used to call me Angel Face. Used to call me Angel Face. You used to help me through the night, make me feel alright. Now all I have is teardrops through a lonely night. Bad love, a woman was born to lie, makes promises she can't keep with the wink of an eye. New York City blues, in order to win, you gotta lose. All before your time, the dirt and the grime get into everything. And I miss the hungry years, the once upon a time, the lovely long ago. We didn't have a dime. Those days of me and you, we lost along the way. They say that breaking up is hard to do. Now I know that it's true. Just get your act together. Be ready for who and whatever. Life is a smile, so find it. Put your face behind it. Get it straight in your mind. You gotta make your own sunshine. Like your own sunshine. Is this the way to Amarillo? Every night I've been hugging my pillow, dreaming dreams of Amarillo and sweet Marie who waits for me. I'm always chasing rainbows, waiting to find a little bluebird in vain. And you have turned the tide and made the world seem bright. You and you alone have turned the dark to light. I'm on a new road and I'm cruising along the highway. I'll do it my way. I'm beginning to breathe again. I love me for myself, and it's better. And now I give my heart to you. I'll try until my dream comes true. I pray I'll hit the proper chords. I do it for applause.
Well, that's it. I hope this inspires you to check out the music of Neil Sedaka. I really Appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.